Both these players at 9-2-1, so will need to win the next 2 of their matches and then can intentionally draw to stay in this match. Grant Shen going to be kicking things off. Going first, exactly like you want with this Lugia deck. Ultra Ball getting rid of 2 pieces at that single strike Urshifu, really here to get through those big Pokemon like Duraludon or Vitality. Not something you want to discard. Really looking to discard those Archeops turn 1 with Ultra Ball, but with 2 of them in the prize cards, may have to rely on something like Professor Burnett to discard those to get that Summoning Star to start getting these Archeops into play.
That's true. Not quite the perfect turn just yet. It's always so intimidating when your opponent just goes Ultra Ball double Archeops, but we know for a fact that's probably a little tougher, especially since there's 2 in the prizes. Look, a very early Luminous sign there. Grant playing the Luminion V. I believe this is the first turn. That means you can't play that supporter, but we're playing it a little bit early. I'm looking at this. I'm maybe playing around a possible Path to the Peak from Grant's side. That could be something. That could be a play for sure.
So Path could potentially be it, but it's more so that escape rope, right? That turn 1 Raikou can be so scary. If you flower selecting 3 times, you play Colress, and then you play that Lost Vacuum, you can get to 7 cards, and a single escape rope could bring that up. So Grant understands, hey, if that happens, I can at least try and respond with a knockout next turn. I'm going to give myself the best chance to win. Grant Manley, a solid start right away, finding that Colress experiment. But this is the problem you have with the Lost Zone deck sometimes, especially early when you haven't played your Battle VIP pass. A card like Comfey that you can throw away doesn't technically seem maybe like the best option. The problem with this hand is
everything
there's
is good.
Not a lot going on. Well, not only are these cards good, but the hand has a lot of these precious resources like Mirage Gate, like Energy Recycler. There's not much going on. What do you think you get off of this Colress?
Again, there's a lot of options here. In fact, the Forest Seal Stone is very important, but looks like losing Mirage Gate and the Energy Recycler, the Aqua Storm Dream is looking very unlikely now.
It's hard. You do play 3 copies of the Energy Recycler, so as long as you keep 1 more, and oh boy.
Here we go, big decision.
To add insult
never mind,
to injury.
Dream is alive.
The Dream is alive. Kyogre is just such a solid card, especially when your opponent puts Luminion into play. That can just be a free 2 prizes later on in the game if you can't set math up with Sableye. But this flower selecting's got to find something. Some sort of Pokemon, some sort of way to get more things. And, I mean, you hate to throw away water energy. You need those energies later on, but you have to play Battle VIP Pass.
I got excited there for a second, you know, when you see the Battle VIP Pass off the Comfey, but again, losing an energy, absolutely debilitating, but we need to play that Battle VIP Pass right now. Getting the Radiant Greninja seems pretty good. Maybe another Comfey. We have multiple ways to switch. You could even hit this turn with the Cramorant, potentially. Maybe set up some damage on the Lugia, or even the Luminion, since I do see the escape rope in the hand.
The escape rope is there. The issue is, what is your follow-up? So if you grab another Comfey off this Battle VIP Pass, you don't have a lot going on. So I think what Grant is deciding is, do I think my opponent has a way to knock out Raikou if I put it into play this turn? The idea being there is a Forest Seal Stone in hand, with not much else going on. You need to make sure you have a follow-up, because if Lugia gets established, if Lugia sets up, it could be difficult to keep up.
Exactly. I mean, Lugia, we all know Lugia V-Star at this point, absolutely powerful card. A powerful card able to summon the Archeopses from the discard pile and pretty much power up anything in the deck very, very easily. But yeah, but right now, again, Grant doesn't have that setup. I like the Raikou drop here. I like putting on the pressure. Could potentially, they definitely can potentially attack this turn, judging by the hand. Again, they're going to have to play that Forest Seal Stone, probably grab the Lost Vacuum just to get up to 6, and then 1 more. That's 1 more flower selecting. And you're right. Again, turn 1, a potential turn 1 Fleet-Footed could be absolutely big. Right now, it's doing around 200 damage, though. There's only 5. Oh, no, sorry. It's doing 240?
So right now, Fleet-Footed is doing 120 damage. There are 5 bench Pokemon in play, and this will now be 140 damage. But both these Pokemon on the bench are weak to Lightning, so it will be double damage. I think what Grant is just deciding is, do I value hitting in for 110 damage, or do I value trying to extend a little bit here? I know my opponent's going to probably bring the Luminion up when I play this escape rope, regardless of what comes down. But is it worth utilizing my Raikou to take these 2 prizes compared to utilizing it to take a knockout on Lugia V? I have to imagine the prizes just seem so appealing this early on in the game.
Getting 2 prizes on your very, very first turn of the game, I think that's absolutely amazing. That sets you up. That means if you can get down to possibly no cards in deck, you can potentially take a 4 prize turn later down the line.
And you see how important it was that Grant benched that Lumineon that turn. Because if he didn't bench this Lumineon, this Lugia is getting knocked out, which means Grant has no follow-up the following turn.
That's true. The game would essentially be over again. The crux of the deck, the Lugia V-Star. If you can't get your V-Star out, the deck just does not work here.
Feels like a theme deck for sure. You're slowly attaching energy. Not much is going on. Pretty tough Lost Zone there. Has to get rid of a lightning energy. There is one in the prize cards as well, so as long as there's one still in the deck, which I believe none have been concealed carded away yet, means we'll be okay to go. I think a smart choice here, Grant's going to just utilize fleet-footed first. If you draw into that Lost Vacuum, you don't have to use your V-Star power. Oh, that's terrible.
No,
that's absolutely the worst card you can get.
Oh, he's going to have to use the recycler. He has a recycler in hand.
No, it doesn't. He can't utilize the recycler. He has already committed his attachment for turn. He's already used concealed cards. He has an energy in the Lost Zone.
Right.
That is the absolute worst card you can draw into. It means this Raikou now cannot attack.
That was absolutely I think Grant just realizing it right now.
Crushing. I mean, you're on stream. You get absolutely lose that top 4 set at the last event because your opponent got so lucky. You get so unlucky in your Lost Zone cards. And now you come back on the stream, back to the same stage where misfortune struck you last weekend, 2 weekends ago, and you're met with this? That just has to feel absolutely horrible.
No, but I know Grant here, a professional Pokemon player. Despite this little setback, despite this very unfortunate luck, I know he's the type of person that would keep his composure and he just has to adjust a couple of game plans here. Let's see what Grant has in store for us. But right now, again, plan A not quite working out.
And now pretty much has to just burn an extra switching card to put this up. This is sort of the risk, and I think what Grant might be thinking is this a trap, right? If I bring this Lugia up, is my opponent just going to slam down Mirage Gate and sort of bait me into bringing this Lugia up? The idea being, if you have a Tyranitar that's clean, it means that Dragonite can't one-hit knock it out. But again, I think you have to value Lugia. At this point, you have to assume that if your opponent had the cards here, they probably would take the knockout, but there is always that risk. I mean, Grant Manley is a very strong player. He could have a backup option just in case things happen, so seems like the plan B. As you mentioned, Cramorant spit innocently, 110 damage on this Tyranitar. We'll weaken it up later on in the game to potentially be Lost Mind to take a knockout. The big question here, Grant right now, no Archeops in the discard pile. Really relying off of this professor's research to get something going. Oh, but does have Burnett in hand. Look at that.
Yeah, easy card to play there. Just you get to look for any 2 cards from the deck, send it to the discard pile, and right now those are the only 2 Archeops in the deck. So very great supporter there to play. And I just have to talk about this real quick. I think Tyranitar actually is a great Pokemon in this matchup, right? Cragalanche does 60 damage, and you get to discard your 2 cards from your opponent's deck. And you could potentially discard something like a Mirage Gate, maybe a Chorus, something important. And again, 60 damage doesn't seem like much, but it is powered up by the single strike energy, so you can potentially knock out even Cramorant. So I think this is the most ideal attacker, and even with the V-Guard energy, you're actually safe from Dragonite as well. So getting this damage off on the Tyranitar is actually pretty big, in my opinion.
So right now, Cragalanche, base 60 damage will be boosted by that single strike energy, 20 more damage, and it provides a dark and fighting type at the same time. And I think really just evaluating gift energy on to refill this hand up. There's only 2 cards in the hand. You'll go to 3 after you take this prize card on Cramorant. And also that secondary effect, discarding the top 2 cards of your opponent's deck. There's a lot of resources Grant had to go through on that first turn. A lot of cards Grant can't really afford to have discarded. Things like Energy Recycler, things like more Mirage Gate, even things like Colress's Experiment are cards that you want to have in your deck. This Lost Zone deck is built to just have specific copies of cards to get through specific instances. It's not prepared or not built to be prepared to take on getting discarded. What are the 2 cards? I think Grant got pretty fortunate there, only having those 2 to get discarded. Sure, you want Dragonite in your deck, but the Hisuian Heavy Ball, it's a useless card right now.
Exactly. Dragonite in the discard pile isn't as bad as Dragonite in the Lost Zone. Just in case if you need it, it's still there, especially when you have something like Clara. But right now, I think Grant's goal might be potentially a Lost Mind this turn, right? Right now, there's 110 damage on that Tyranitar. That's leaving it with 120 HP, which leaves it just enough from a Lost Mind. And more importantly, you don't trigger that gift energy if you take a knockout. But I'm trying to see what other plays Grant can do here. He could potentially maybe set up damage on the Archeops, set up damage on the Lugia.
This is so tough here because, I mean, you can go to 8 cards in the Lost Zone with this Lost Vacuum. Put yourself into that range to utilize Mirage Gate, but the rest of the hand is just looking so poor. Energy Recycler, Grant is actually playing, I think an interesting change that Grant has made to this deck is he is now playing 4 copies of Energy Recycler. That feels like the fact that you have more Energy Recycler in your deck than something like, I don't know, playing Clara in your deck, playing ways to get that card back is just such an interesting inclusion. Has also gone up to playing more copies of Pokestop, but I mean, really just valuing the ability to get these energy back and having one in the Lost Zone, not as detrimental if there were only three of those cards in the deck.
You know what? I just noticed that. Thank you for bringing that up. I mean, when I saw the Energy Recycler hit the Lost Zone, I felt a little bad, but now that I see 4 of them, no, yeah, it makes sense that the Kyogre, he decided to keep the Kyogre. Typically, in my mind, once I see 1 Recycler in the Lost Zone, maybe I switch plans, not Aqua Storm anymore, but you know, that's still a possibility here. Looks like we're going to be attacking with a Raikou, potentially. We do have the Lightning Energy in hand. Another play I was thinking about is, you know, Moonlight Shuriken into the Archeops. I know this is an old school, old format type of way to combat Lugia, where you set up damage on the Archeops, finish it off with the Lost Mine, but of course there's the Radiant Serena as well to think of. Actually, if he had Radiant Serena last turn, healing up the Tyranitar means he wouldn't have gotten knocked out by something like a Lost Mine, but looks like we're going with a Raikou anyway.
Yeah, no Colress, so going to be pretty hard to get to 10 cards in the Lost Zone. Does still have that attachment for turn, fleet-footed, drawing an extra card. Lightning Rondo now, with 8 Pokemon in play, will be dealing 180 damage. So, able to take the knockout. Grant responding back, going to 4 prize cards, but that 2 prize knockout on Raikou already on board as long as there's a single energy, which Primal Turbo will easily get. Gift Energy, filling the hand up to 7 cards, and Grant's going to take the prize lead here, going to 3. What else can he do to push his advantage?
I'm starting to think, you know, this is starting to look like maybe not your typical Lost Box matchup, or Lost Box match here. Right now, Grant is going to lose, his Raikou is going to get knocked out by this Lugia V-Star. His best Pokemon to respond to this is potentially the Raikou once again. So it's swinging back and forth with these 2 prize Pokemon, starting to think, where's the Lost Mine? You know? But again, if Grant, again, has the Clara in hand, he can get that Raikou back. But I want to see what else he can do. He could potentially even Lost Mine here, put 3 damage counters on the Lugia, maybe try and set up a 4 prize turn, depending on what Grant Shen decides to bench as well here.
Lots of options for both these players. I'm sure they've played this matchup time and time again. We're rolling dice here. We're having a good time searching through the deck. This one, flipping heads, so we'll be able to search out an evolution Pokemon. It seems like we're just thinning the hand out, grabbing that single strike Urshifu VMAX. Does have the attachment for turn already in hand. Again, playing this Nest Ball out. Will finally get, as you mentioned before, that Radiant Serena Elegant Heal, able to heal 20 damage off of each of your Pokemon once per turn. It's great for situations like you explained before, Moonlight Shuriken and knock out both Archeops in 2 turns. A super solid play to shut off that acceleration engine, but with the Radiant Serena healing both those Pokemon down to 70, it's no longer an option with Sableye.
Exactly. Very, very powerful card, especially for this matchup. Not only that, yeah, again, it messes up a lot of the math Grant has to think of, right? Now, if he wants to set up some knockouts, and maybe instead of putting 30 damage, he has to put 50 just to account for Radiant Serena. Right here, I believe that was a research play?
Yeah, Professor's Research being played, discarded a couple cards that weren't relevant, did get rid of Boss's Orders, however, that is a card, of course, that you want later on. And Grant's kind of the deck, I think, really just understanding that late game Cragalanche could spell disaster.
That's true.
Grant Shen does now have access to Urn of Vitality, so that could bring back some of these single strike energy. I think there's no reason not to just play that. Of course, you could get down another Tyranitar. You do play that single strike Yveltal, which can attack for 3 dark energy. It is a 1 prize Pokemon, so you've got understanding, probably, if you've understood how Grant Manley has built and played these decks, that there's probably not a Sky Seal Stone, so you can sort of navigate your prizes through and through. Primal Turbo being used. These energies could go on to a benched Archeops, at least as a pivoting option. Could just put that energy there.
Could even be a potential attacker, right? Archeops, 150 HP Pokemon, does do 120 damage. Grant Shen right now doesn't quite have a backup attacker, right? You mentioned earlier maybe the Yveltal or another Tyranitar would be ideal. But right now, I think they're keeping their bench a little bit safer because the threat of the Aqua Storm is real, right? Getting to the bottom of your deck, Grant is down to 4 prizes. If you bench another Tyranitar, that's if Grant could get the bottom some way, somehow, potentially take a 4 prize swing, or at least set up for the 4 prize swing, that would be really, really good. So right now, I think Archeops, it's going to have to do here, depending on what Grant decides to attack with this next turn. But looks like Grant Shen does get the Tyranitar there, but probably not going to bench it.
Nope, Urn of Vitality being played as well, so that will shuffle 2 of those single strike energy back in play, meaning there are now 3 in the deck able to power up not just the Evil Tall, but also that single strike crush to deal 120 damage after the 60 boosted damage from single strike energy. And well, after a pretty shaky start for Grant, after having 2 Archeops prized, found that Professor Burnett, got things set up, is now in an excellent position, can take these 2 prizes on the Raikou, go down to just 3. That seems to be what the play is. Taking the prize cards, going to 3 prizes. How will Grant Manley respond? Both of those powerful V Pokemon are in the discard pile, so maybe relying off of Clara as the supporter for turn, but you really want to be playing Colress to get through your deck if you can.
Exactly. That's a scary scenario, right? Yes, you can potentially line up a knockout here on this Lugia V-Star, but you're going to have to use another 2 prize Pokemon. By using another 2 prize Pokemon, you're losing time, right? By essentially what you want in Lost Box, and especially when you want to get to the bottom of your deck, you want to really depend on your single prize attackers, right? If you're only attacking with Sableyes and your Cramorants, for example, right now it'll take Grant Shen 3 turns to win this game. Whereas if you attack with the Raikou this turn, you're gonna leave Grant Shen with 1 prize. You have 2 turns left to really set up your big plays. So I'm curious what Grant's going to decide to do here. And with that escape rope, it's making me think he's not going to take that knockout.
No, Archeops coming up here with double turbo energy seems like the correct play. If nothing happens, you've got the pivot back into your Lugia. And if something does happen, you do just have that single Pokemon, 1 prize Pokemon to give up. The Radiant Serena just seems like it provides too much value in terms of healing some of those Lost Mine damage up. But here we are. Grant Manley has achieved the perfect 10 cards in the Lost Zone, activating Sableye's Lost Mine attack to be able to spread 12 damage counters for a single Psychic Energy on your opponent's board.
Now we can stop counting, right? 10 is the magic number for a Lost Box. Once you hit that number, you have access to pretty much everything you want in your deck. I do believe I see the Sableye in hand. We even have the Echoing Horn, so that opens up a lot of plays here. They could, Grant could decide to bench lock Grant Shen at this point, really have a choice of what to start targeting down. I'm not quite sure what Grant Shen has in the discard pile. Possibly a Tyranitar, right? Maybe you could bench the Tyranitar. Tyranitar is something that can't evolve. It's another 2 prize Pokemon.
Getting rid of Colress does find the escape rope off the Pokestop. I think that's a good point you mentioned with the Echoing Horn. 2 things that I think Grant is concerned about. One, that Collapse Stadium could discard one of those benched Pokemon, put that back in the discard pile, essentially negate the Echoing Horn entirely, and then also the 1 copy of Penny in the deck here. Totally understands that Grant Shen, I believe, playing the same 60 cards actually as Reagan Retzloff, so it's the exact same deck. You've got to understand once you see those similarities that the list cards has important pieces. Finally see his second escape row get played, Sableye coming into the active spot, and Lost Mine will be the attack of choice. Wancho, lots of possibilities, lots of way to set this damage up. Where do you think is best?
Exactly. I think you have to put the damage on the Lugia, especially if you're trying to set up for the Aquastorm turn. I think that just has to be the play here. Forest Seal Stone attached to the Sableye, not quite going to use it. Maybe put it onto the Luminion as well. That could be an option. I'm trying to think here. Again, the Radiant Serena really does change things up, but right now the damage in my mind just has to go on the Lugia. Everywhere else is just icing on top of the cake, in my opinion.
You want to maximize, but again, the more Pokemon you put that onto, the more value that Elegant Heal on the Radiant Serena is getting. Does finally find Clara, so can play that as a supporter for choice. Could potentially bring back these V Pokemon, but
it's like just the
not
energy.
Grabbing that, at least for me, signals that Grant is pretty invested into this Aquastorm play. Understands this is going to be how he closes this game out. This is how he's going to take 4 prize cards.
Yeah, he's putting the card on top of his hand. You just have to know that's my play here. Something I wish we had is a deck counter. I know we have a Lost Zone counter here, but right now I want to know how many cards Grant has left in the deck, because right now it's looking pretty thin. So Grant is doing Grant Manley, excuse me, is doing work.
Yeah, has only played 1 Colress so far, so that's sort of the issue. Did have 1 get discarded this turn off the Pokestop, and there is 1 in the prize card, so still does have access to 1 more Colress's Experiment. And you see Grant making a smart play. Spreading damage onto the Archeops means that even with Elegant Heal to bring that down to 30 damage on it, a Lost Mine the following turn will still be able to take the knockout. And Grant understands he's got 2 routes to victory. Kyogre to take 2 knockouts on 2 V Pokemon, or another Sableye next turn. Knock out that Archeops, put himself to 3 prize cards. We also have to note Aquastorm only damages the benched Pokemon. can't hit the active. So if this Lugia stays in the active and there's no other 2 prizer that comes down. Speaking of which, though, Tyranitar's coming up, Primal Turbo's being used. This is where Cragalanche gets really scary when you've already gone through so many resources in your deck, when you only have so many cards available, and when you sometimes need those perfect combination of cards. They get milled, they get discarded, and it can just be game losing.
It's a double-edged sword, though. Again, we know Grant Manley, what he wants to do is get to the bottom of his deck. But, you know, Tyranitar, yes, it discards. Was that a judge?
Yes.
That was an absolutely huge judge. That's something you do not want to see, especially this late in the game. I'm sure Grant Manley was setting up their hand there. But again, I just want to talk about the Cragalanche because, you know, you could possibly be helping out the Lost Box players. Deck, right? You could possibly discard 2 useless cards or just help them get to the bottom in any case, but I still think it's an ideal attacker. Again, if you get to discard something like a Mirage Gate, an Energy Recycler, that's just so much value.
And those pieces, like you said, could have been in Grant's hand, but now are instead potentially in the deck and can be discarded.
Grant's hand actually looks pretty good after that Judge. Wouldn't mind having that grip after a Judge for sure. A Chorus, we have a Pokestop as well, just in case ours gets bumped, and the Mirage Gate and Energy Recycler safely in my hand can't get Cragalanched.
The choice here for Grant, do you want to discard this double turbo energy to retreat into this Tyranitar to utilize Cragalanche, or do you just stay here?
I know, that's
utilize Storm Dive, take the knockouts.
Take out the stadium as well. That's actually a lot of value. That's a lot of value too. Yes,
I'm still getting in my head. It's Storm Dive in Japanese and it's Tempest Dive here. But yeah, looks like just going to wait off Cragalanching, having that threat on board for potentially the following turn, utilizing Storm Dive, utilizing Tempest Dive, taking the knockout. Grant Shen going down to just 2 prize cards, 2 turns away from winning. But we know Kyogre, we know how detrimental it can be, we know how powerful it can be. It may be able to be set up. Colress, as you said, in the hand. The last copy of Colress's Experiment that's available. Nest Ball as well for Kyogre. Ooh. The question here, how many cards are in deck? I see 3, 6, 9. I think there's 12, 13 cards in this deck. You can get through 5 with Colress. You can get through another 11, another 6 if you flower selecting 3 times. If there's that many resources. I know there's still 2 switch card in the prize cards. Might be the issue for Grant to dig this much, but is actually utilizing the Nest Ball to put Kyogre into play. So either he's confident he can find the cards to Aqua Storm this turn, feels as if Grant Shen can't be able to play boss to target it down, or just has no better play to go for than to bench this Kyogre.
Yeah, I'm trying to think here. This Kyogre, normally in my mind, when you play a Pokemon, you're playing it because you're about to use it, but possibly Grant had to play that Nest Ball so he doesn't discard it with the Pokestop or potentially even send it to the Lost Zone. Looks like we're sending 2 cards, 2 Water Energies there off of the Pokestop. We still have access to Chorus to dig here.
Okay, so that's 3 cards now, so I believe there's 9 cards left in the deck. So Chorus can be played. I think we go to 4 cards left. Let's take a look and see how many there are. So 3 cards left actually in the deck.
So if they draw into an energy here.
Finds both Energy Recycler. That's very huge. Does have access to double Mirage Gates. So that does give this Comfey the ability to retreat out of the active. It is that pivot. And I think it's just on Grant. What are those last 3 cards in deck?
They can flower select here, right? And then pretty much go down to 1 card. You can go double Mirage Gate. Right now, all you have to hit is 4 energy. Not necessarily 5 because
you need 5. So the Tyranitar has 230 HP on the bench.
Yeah, excuse me.
You do need to hit all 5 energy. There's 2 in the Lost Zone and there's 1 in the prize cards. And Grant is playing 11 energy. So you need to have the perfect 8 energy. 3 to put on Kyogre, 5 to leave in the deck. But if it's there, okay, there's 8 energy there in the discard pile. Double Mirage Gate, double Energy Recycler. The question, however, can Grant get through these last 3 cards in deck to just have them be all energy cards so that this is possible?
You could.
And the issue, again, to point up is you can't miss this turn. You can't leave yourself with 1 card in deck, 2 cards in deck, or you'll get Cragalanche, you'll deck out, and you'll lose the game.
Exactly. This is a very important flower selecting here. This is... This will determine if he decides to go for it or not. Looks like opting to play the Energy Recycler right now.
Okay, maybe there's 3 Energy Recyclers. So if Grant puts a single energy in the deck, flower selectings, and then has that energy in, there's the potential to maybe just try to take that risk, hope you don't hit the single card. Maybe that's what he's considering at this point.
That could be it. Yeah, so you could use something like the concealed cards to draw the last two. That might have to be the case here. You could also just go for, just put a lot of energies and just hope you don't draw into that one card that isn't.
I guess hope that those two cards in the bottom two, that doesn't really feel like the best thing, but I think this is the play, like I mentioned, that Grant might just try to go for.
Yeah, there it is.
The
wow.
one energy in deck. If Grant has 2 energy cards left in deck, if this flower selecting doesn't find either, if they're both cards in the deck,
this is where this is where being a statistician probably helps out. How many energy do I put back into my deck to make it more ideal that I draw into one? Looks like it's going to be 3.
So if there's also 3 energy recycler, there is the risk that Grant could just not go for the game this turn. Try and just put these energies back in, say, hey, you can mill me next turn, but I've still got the resources to make things happen.
That is true.
And here we go. It's actually just going to be the energy, the Mirage Gate. So the last 3 cards, Manaphy, Echoing Horn, and a Battle VIP pass. So I'm trying to see. I don't think Grant has any more pivoting cards. This might just be an Aqua Storm risk.
Still went for the play you were talking about, right? Leaving 1 energy in the deck, but he decided to put 3 just so that he can use this Mirage Gate already, just to have full effect there. A little bit more of a full effect on the energy recycler. So how many cards left in the deck? And flower selecting.
Oh, that's big. That means the energy card is still in the deck.
But so there's only 1 card that isn't energy.
So with Manaphy and the Lightning Energy are the 2 cards left in this deck.
And there's no more ways to draw.
Now the thing is, you could go for this Aqua Storm play and just hope that out of your deck, the Manaphy is not the card that you discard. And I think Grant understands this is the risk that you have to take. Fill your deck with energy cards. Hope that off these 5 cards, you don't discard Manaphy.
How many energies are we putting back in? That's
so
5
for sure. So you can put 5 energy back in. Remember that you have to take 2 energy here with that Mirage Gate. How many more are there? It's just the 1. So there's now a total of 7 energy in the deck.
It has to be the perfect
2
draw.
out here. Does it have to be perfect?
Yeah, it has to be perfect. It has to be the perfect draw if you draw into the Manaphy.
This is insane. Grant has to hope that that single copy of Manaphy, the 1 non-energy card, is on the bottom of the deck. That way, Aqua Storm will discard 5 energy cards, 250 damage to 2 of these benched Pokemon.
Well, we got what we wished for. We're going to see an Aqua Storm in a minute, but this is the most tense Aqua Storm we've ever seen. Typically, you see this card played.
5 cards discard.
No,
the Manaphy is there. And that's 200 damage to this Act 2, 2 of these bench Pokemon. You can target down, I guess, the Archeops in this, but the energy cards are already there. And wow.
Again, 1 card left in the deck.
And that's it. It's so simple. Retreat into Tyranitar. You don't knock out Kyogre. Craggerlanche will mill the last card in deck. Grant Manley has no cards to draw at the start of his turn. A rare win condition, but achieved nevertheless. Grant Shen going up 1-0 in a long and tense Game 1.
What an intense game here. That I don't think I've ever seen a more tense Aqua Storm in my life. What an intense day 2 here at the Hartford Regional Champions. Again, gotta give it up to Grant Manley, though. I'm trying to rack my brain. Is there a way I could have gotten that Manaphy out of the deck? I just could not see it. So Grant just playing to his outs, right? Playing the most optimal play he could. There is some debate to maybe wait a turn, because the opponent was still down to 2 prizes. You still have that 1 turn, but at the same time, my Kyogre is already down on the board.
I think the problem there is that those last 2 switch card being prized means that Grant just doesn't have the ability to dig through. Now, if Grant had the ability to dig through those last 2 cards, then yes, that would be possible. He could definitely have made that happen. I mean, listen, Kyle, you got your wish, right? You got to see Kyogre on stream. However, it wasn't a game-winning Aqua Storm. It's one of the very rare instances where we see Aqua Storm not close the game out because you're usually going to 0 cards left in your deck, and it's the risk that Grant had to take. Again, having some of those unfortunate Lost Zone choices early on, not being able to find Colress early, not being able to get to the deck. Now you think, if Grant had access to that last Colress that wasn't prized, if he could have just gone through every card in the deck, the energy were there. There were 8 energy available for Aqua Storm to get those knockouts.
And you have to remember, he did that play off a judge, right? He had to make do with the resources he had at that point in the game, which is, again, only 4 or 5 cards in the hand. And he was almost there. He almost got it. Just a couple of, if he just got a little bit luckier, right? Also, the very unfortunate, I just want to talk about it again, just drawing that lightning energy very early in the game, missing out on a potentially earlier 2 prizes. That was big indeed.
It would have sped the game up, maybe meant that Grant had 1 more turn to play with to maybe find something like they Aqua Storm potentially. See mulligan over on Grant Manley's side. One more card for Grant Shen in the early game means one more chance to find those Ultra Ball, to find those Archeops. 20 minutes left in this round. Probably won't see 3 games finish, but both these players being at 9-2 and 2. Oh, let's point that out. Professor Burnett in the prize cards. That's a key card for Grant in order to get set up.
Exactly. We saw how important Professor Burnett was in that first game. Again, it's a lot more straightforward way to get those Archeops into the discard pile. Essentially turns an Ultra Ball into 2 Archeops into the discard pile by finding that Luminion, which also one of is in the prize, but luckily he does play 2. Turning a Luminion into a potentially 2-card discard. So yeah, Professor Burnett in the prizes could be big, depending on the opening hand here.
And Grant understands the time issue. I mean, we were barely putting our prize cam out here. Like, we were seeing what everything was happening, and Grant has already kicked action off. He's kind of starting this hand out, and this hand is not looking great. Colress in the prize cards again, as well as 3 of those energy cards. And this is looking like not a great start. You have to get rid of Mirage Gate. You have Dragonite, you have Forest Seal Stone. Do you wait next turn to grab Colress? Do you grab Battle Pass? What are you getting here? Are you playing this down, committing it, or are you holding off till next turn?
I think you could play it down right now just to protect yourself from a potential judge this next turn. I don't know if you use it. No, looks like we are using it. Not quite sure what we're going to grab. Chorus for the next turn. Look, oh, Radiant Greninja set up. But
it's got to be Battle Pass.
Yes.
Yeah.
So definitely getting some value there off the Forest Seal Stone. Something I see off Mew. Sometimes it's just the 5th Battle VIP pass, right? Still a very powerful card to play on your first turn. Very important setup there. Let's see what else he has. Does he have an energy in hand to make use of the Greninja?
There is nothing going on in this hand. There's Clara, there's a few there's an energy recycler, Sableye, not cards you want to have.
All right, capturing Aroma being played now. Let's see heads or tails. Like off the camera. Let's see what it is.
We'll see what Pokemon gets grabbed. It will be a surprise. Starting that Lugia V. Not the best Pokemon, not the worst Pokemon. Sometimes starting Tyranitar can be your best Pokemon in this matchup because, again, early game Cragalanche, it's a big Pokemon. When you have Radiant Serena, hard to get through. It looks like did find heads.
We
so
have a second Lugia.
Archeops.
I don't know if they have any other supporter. Again, it looks like a judge. It's going to be a judge for the turn.
We are as well. So with Judge early on, it's kind of this weird dilemma. You know your opponent played their star power. They just passed their turnover. They didn't really pop off. They didn't really get excited. But of course, they couldn't play Colress if it was in their hand on their first turn. So they could be holding on to that. With how sort of weak and unimpressive Grant Manley's start was. I mean, sure, got Battle Pass, but had to use the star power. Do you even play Judge in a situation like this?
I never like Judge. I never like an early Judge in the Lugia deck because if you think about it, before you even get to... Oh, no, he had a Research. Excuse me.
Wow.
I just saw the Judge, but yeah, Research big there, getting the Archeops into the discard pile. I was just about to say an early Judge in a Lugia deck because essentially you have 20 bricks in the deck before you get to use your V-Star, right?
And a hefty discard there, getting rid of 2 single strike energy, but it seems to have paid off. Grant has found an Ultra Ball and the second copy of Archeops to put into the discard pile. Already has Lugia in the hand. Things are looking excellently here for Grant Shen in game number 2. Getting set up, getting 2 Archeops in the discard pile, has access to Penny the following turn, and knows that Grant Manley has no way to disrupt this hand. Let me wait for another top deck. Let me wait for another card. Let me play this hand out when I have more options. Let me see what I can do. Grant Manley starting things off. And more flower selectings, but there's nothing going on. Is really banking off his concealed cards. Do we see a Colress? No, both flower selectings have been used. There's only 3 cards in the lost zone. Grant Manley is going to be stuck just passing the turnover again.
He could attack you with a Spit innocently, and something I just want to point out as well. Just notice the pace of play here for Grant again. He knows he's down 1 game. He has to play as fast as possible. Those were really fast flower selecting. Yes, they were easy choices.
So it does have Lost Vacuum in the hand. So, excuse me, can still utilize this attack, put himself up to 5 cards in the Lost Zone, damage this Lugia. But I think Grant Shen has a surprise in store that Grant Manley is not going to be too happy.
Oh, no.
Not going to be too excited about.
Is this a turn we see Penny from Grant Shen just to heal it up?
I feel like in this matchup, you don't get a lot of opportunities to utilize Penny. It seems like it would just do its job to heal this off. At the same time, this Lugia would be knocked out back by something like a Raikou with 2 energies on it to utilize Lightning Rondo to take the knockout.
Or the Dragonite.
Dragonite as well. Yep, V-Guard energy won't matter when you've already got 110 damage on you. But there we go. Like we said last turn, was contemplating playing it before. Playing it now. Ultra Ball. Discarding that second Archeops, already has Lugia V-Star in the hand, grabbing Luminion off of this. So at
maybe
minimum,
just to discard.
see the Summoning Star, putting both of these Archeops into play. The choice now, what do you attack with? What supporter card do you play this turn?
I still think Penny's the right choice here. There we go. We do see the Penny healing up that Lugia, essentially negating Grant Manley's turn. And again, we have the Luminion for the next turn just in case. And just like that, Grant Shen's going to be able to take the first prize of this second game.
Choosing to attack with this Lugia V-Star instead of Tyranitar, and that's because 2 of those single strike energy got discarded on that first turn with that Professor's Research. Is able to finally power this up. Primal Turbo, putting 2 energy on that bench Tyranitar. That V-Guard energy, we talk about it, so important at protecting Dragonite V from taking an early knockout and removing that Pokemon off the board.
Yeah, V-Guard energy, absolutely powerful. It protects you from your Pokemon Vs. Like you said, it reduces damage by 30, and luckily Tyranitar, again, a very special V Pokemon. Typically, you expect Pokemon Vs to have 220 HP. Tyranitar has 230, plus that 30 from V-Guard is essentially 260. Unfortunately, Dragonite just 10 short.
Dragonite not quite able to do it in the Battle of the Titans, one-on-one.
The pseudo-legendaries.
Pseudo, 2 powerful Pokemon going at it. It looks like Tyranitar will be the victor, but Grant utilizing that Lugia V-Star, Tempest Dive, taking the knockout, going to 5 prize cards. And again, Grant is struggling with a hand with no cards.
That does get the chorus.
Finally finds chorus off this flower, or off of this concealed cards. But what can you put together? Your opponent negated your last turn, played Penny to heal all your damage off. You can utilize this to find 5 cards, but again, it's so tough. Look at all those resources. You've already lost on a Mirage Gate. You really want to have Echoing Horn for that Kyogre play that Grant was trying to set up. You know a Colress is prized. You have 1 here as an option, and Nest Ball to find your Raikou to take a knockout. What do you even lost on in this case?
Yeah, again, a very, very tough choice. I'm trying to think, what is the path here for Grant Manley? Again, your goal here is to take 2 prizes, right? You're going to, again, you mentioned earlier, you want to attack possibly with the Raikou. That could be an easy KO on the Lugia, but you also need to get to the bottom of your deck after that. So there's a lot of sequencing, a lot of planning you have to do in the Lost Box deck for sure, especially this one. And I'm trying to think, it looks like he is prioritizing the Nest Ball. This is an absolutely very, very tough decision. It's not every day you see the Chorus and a Mirage Gate hit the Lost Zone off a Chorus. Typically, you have at least 1 easy decision.
Wow, that feels so bad to get rid of Chorus. You've now got just a single copy left in the entire deck for the rest of the game. But yeah, again, understands that to keep pace in this matchup, you have to take a knockout. You have to respond. Damage with Cramorant, even damage with Sableye is negligent in comparison to taking a knockout back with Raikou, utilizing the Nest Ball, finding it. There's now 7 cards in the Lost Zone. Mirage Gate can grab out this Lightning Energy and one of these Water Energy, power this Raikou up. But from there, you're facing down Tyranitar. You're facing down a Pokemon that will be able to take a 1-hit knockout onto Raikou, force Grant down in the prize lead. What do you do after this turn? Getting the knockout now is great, but what's your plan in the future?
After this, you have to just turbo through your deck. You need to draw, you need your Chorus, you need your Pokestops, you need to get to the very bottom because we need to see another Aqua Storm, I believe. Again, Dragonite's just not going to cut it against this Tyranitar, and it's actually absolutely heartbreaking to have 2 Pokemon Vs. Those are 2 liabilities in Grant's deck, in Grant's side of the board, in my opinion.
Again, I think the one saving grace here for Grant Manley is the fact that, again, we keep stressing it, the 2 single strike energy are in the discard pile. So with those unavailable, this Tyranitar is unable to use any attack except for Cragalanche, which will not be enough damage to knock out this Raikou. So will this just come down to the fact, or will it just come down to Grant Shen finding a Cragalanche? Or rather, finding an Urn of Vitality to utilize that single strike crush.
Single strike crush, yes.
For the time being, though, just going to see fleet-footed. Does bench the 5th Pokemon, so now Lightning Rondo, dealing 180 damage with that weakness, 360, more than enough to take the knockout onto Lugia V-Star. Grant Manley responding, going down to 4 prize cards.
Let's see how many Grant draws here off the Gift Energy. Just 1, unfortunately. Oh, no, 2. Unfortunately, none are the Urn of Vitality just yet, so Grant has to dig a little bit more. So let's see what the top deck. Oh, it's the Urn of Vitality. Probably the perfect top deck here for Grant. Doesn't have to bench the Luminion to get another supporter. Just has it here. That means he has single strike crushed, ready to go to take 2 prizes.
Big time top deck, finding that Urn of Vitality. Can also just use this first Primal Turbo to grab out the single strike energy number 1. Can also get gift energy, so that is also potential. Okay, so...
Oh, he doesn't even need
Oh,
the
my bad.
Urn.
I forgot the single strike energy wasn't prized. To just have the second single strike energy in the deck. Here I was saying he needed to find more, but it was already there. I think still finding this Urn of Vitality means that if Dragonite is able to essentially find a knockout somehow down the line, you still want to have that Urn of Vitality.
It's always good to have in hand, right?
Not a bad draw at all. I thought like 3 hit the discard pile turn 1, but listen, even with that top deck, Grant was in great shape before, in better shape now, has access to a variety of supporter cards in hand, just got the hand filled back up with gift energy. It looks like Serena could potentially bench another Lugia, but that's always a risk if your opponent can just take another knockout with that Raikou V. Are you okay just leaving these 3 Pokemon in play and hoping this Tyranitar puts in work?
Tyranitar should be fairly safe, right? Again, 260 HP is not, or effectively 260 HP is pretty hard to deal with, so it should be able to take a turn, but benching a Lugia, potentially turning into a Lugia V-Star seems pretty good as well as a backup attacker. And again, I just have to state this, Grant Shen even has Serena in hand, so he could potentially be taking 4 prizes in the next 2 turns, as we see the Urn of Vitality being used right now, just straight into the Urshifu V.
Interesting choice there to grab the Urshifu V. Of course, that could evolve into Urshifu VMAX, which does have the beatdown attack for 3 colorless energy, 100 damage, and that can be boosted by the single strike energy, which again, Raikou V is weak to fighting, so that could be a way to deal with. And of course, these 1 prize Pokemon with low HP amounts, could be a way to just have a consistent 3 prize attacker. And there we're going to see it. A great play here from Grant Shen. Boss's orders, ignore the Raikou. Understand it's putting on no 1-hit potential the following turn, unless there's some Echoing Horn shenanigans. The single strike crush, 280 damage, discarding 4 cards from Grant Shen's deck, but it's worth the cost of knocking out this Dragonite V.
Yes, losing the judge there could hurt. I mean, we already saw another judge hit the discard pile. I believe they're only playing 2, so right now Grant's hand is perfectly safe for the rest of the game. But again, he is on a timer. Grant Shen could potentially win the next 2 turns. I like the grab of the single strike Urshifu V there, opposed to maybe the Lugia, because again, Urshifu VMAX has 330 HP potentially, as opposed to Lugia's 280 and lightning weakness. So it's definitely a lot safer of a Pokemon to bench.
Just more tough flower selecting choices for Grant. Going into Energy Recycler and Water Energy. Has to choose to get rid of that Energy Recycler is playing for, so still has access to that. Concealed cards, getting rid of the Water Energy found off the flower selecting. And is there Colress's Experiment here? Don't think the last one is available. Has Hisui and Heavy Ball, so can still grab that Manaphy out to, I guess, thin it out of the prize cards. Could honestly just say, I don't want this card in my deck. I'm just going to fail the Hisuian Ball. And I think this is a smart heads-up play from Grant. Understands, listen, I played the probability game last game. That Manaphy being in my deck is what cost me to lose the game. I don't want anything to do with you.
You can stay in the prize cards.
I don't want you. I don't want you.
All right, let's see what else he has in store for us. Again, he's down to 4 prizes. It's very... If he takes 1 prize here, potentially on something like an Archeops, that would be absolutely huge, because... Oh, but he also has the Echoing Horn. So, he needs to set up the Aqua Storm play, and he has multiple ways to do that. Again, taking 1 prize so that he just has to take a knockout on a V and an Archeops.
So this is risky here. Escape Rope, I think Grant Shen was immediately thinking, I'm just going to bring up my single strike Urshifu V. It can't be knocked out by the Lightning Rondo attack, but... remember that a supporter hasn't been played for turn. Clara could bring back the Dragonite to deal enough damage.
That's true.
Having to bring this Archeops up into the active, you want that for Primal Turbo, might just be a choice where you need to play safer. You have the lead, you have the advantage. Your opponent has a 2 prize Pokemon in play. You're at 3 prize cards. Saw potentially another Gusting card as well in Grant's hand. And here we go.
That's still a lot of cards in there. I didn't quite get to count. I tried, but it's still quite a bit. But again,
without Chorus, I don't think it's possible at all. You still have access to 1 more flower selecting, so you can play Escape Rope yet again. I think the choice here, what do you bring up? I think the Tyranitar is fine to just go back in the active spot. You could also just bring up the single strike Urshifu. Both of these choices are interesting. I mean, the fact is, if your opponent attacks you with the Dragonite this turn and you take a knockout, you pretty much force your opponent onto the play where they have to next turn Aqua Storm you, because otherwise you can just, again, single strike crush with the Tyranitar to win. So I think this play is fine to bring this up. Understands having Archeops later on in the game is a solid option. More flower selecting is being used. We're past that magic number. There's 11 cards in the Lost Zone, but how much does Lost Mine really matter at this point in the game for Grant Manley?
Exactly. I think it had to be potentially a knockout, but again, he's not quite out of it just yet. Again, we know he has Echoing Horn. He still has the potential. What would be scary is if the Urshifu V on the bench turns into an Urshifu VMAX, potentially. But again, we'll have to see what else he has to work with. What do you think he Fleetfoots here just for one extra card? Again, that's one more card that you draw, and you know how it's. If you're Grant Manley, you just have to assume Grant Shen probably has the gust anyway.
I think if you're attacking in with Raikou into this Tyranitar, it's not looking great for you. I think maybe you're forced to just do it in this position and hope you can get
Again, that's one more card.
Some sort of option. But I mean, yeah, as you said, fleet-footed for one. Put this Raikou into the active. With a total of 7 bench Pokemon in play, that's 160 damage. V-Guard energy brings it down to 130. So, yeah, I mean, I guess Sableye is a potential option to take another prize, but by leaving this Raikou up, you put yourself on a one-turn timer to win the game. There's an easy prize lined up with just another single strike crush next turn from Grant Shen.
Exactly. Energy attachment there on the Comfey, just so that we have that easy pivot the next turn. As, yeah, again, you said it right. By attacking with this Raikou, that's Grant Manley has essentially one more turn. Let's see what Grant Shen has in store. Again, doesn't have to do that much, just has to attack with the Tyranitar to take this knockout. Even potentially the Urshifu, but again, I think you'd rather have the Urshifu on the bench.
So benching Lumineon is weird here, but I kind of thought about the situation. I was like, what would be the absolute worst thing if you're Grant Manley to see on the final turn where you need to put together this big Kyogre play? Judge, research, maybe, I guess, but
Grant Shen discarded both their judges at this point.
They're both gone.
Yeah.
So there's no access to that judge. Instead, deciding to just grab the professor's research, dig through the deck, looking to maybe find a way to find this Urshifu VMAX. That could be a potential. By grabbing that Urshifu VMAX and maybe filling the bench up, that could be a solid option to maybe avoid the Aqua Storm. But, I mean, if you're Grant Shen, you're just thinking, what is the only way that you lose this game? And at least in my mind, it's getting Aqua Stormed and having your opponent take those 4 prizes to close this game out and force a game 3.
If you can bench one more Pokemon here. Oh, no, or he does get the Collapse.
Collapse Stadium there, the Radiant Serena as well. I feel like that's a Pokemon that you want. The Single Strike Urshifu, as we said, that gets evolved up. If there is that Collapse Stadium in combination with Radiant Serena, not only will it heal this Tyranitar, but it will allow the Collapse Stadium to be played, discarding the Lumineon, meaning not only does Grant Manley need to find an Echoing Horn to put that Lumineon back on the bench in combination with another Escape Rope, but now also the Counter Stadium while getting through the rest of the deck, finding the 2 Mirage Gate, finding the energy. You see how I'm adding to this list on and on and on, and it just seems even more difficult for Grant Manley in this situation.
I'm thinking about it. I'm like, how many plays can we do? And right now, you're right. That just has to be it. He needs all these cards. But again, he has a giant hand, right?
Okay, that's a actually really tough discard. And that actually brings up a really interesting line of play. I get flashbacks to the EUIC Juniors Finals. Remy played a boss's orders to bring up his opponent's Lone Lugia V. But because there were no energy left in the deck, boss's orders was able to take a way to bring this up. However, Grant Manley has chose to not play any copies of boss's orders, something that we really don't see sometimes in these Kyogre decks. Sometimes they like to play a single copy to bring it up. I believe Grant's list was playing one the last time we saw him in Portland.
That's true.
Made some adjustments to this list. Going for Kyogre understands this is the one way to win the game. This is your only chance. Can he get through the deck? Can he find this? Finding Switch Card is a good start. Getting rid of Battle VIP Pass. Does find Colress as well, I believe, off of that concealed card. So it's all or nothing at this point. And the Escape Rope, like we said.
First piece. That's the first piece.
Pieces are coming together. This might be possible.
There's the Counter Stadium.
That's piece number 3. That's piece number 4. Finds the Echoing Horn. Okay, I might have to eat my words here. Things are working out excellently. Has the ability to Pokestop. Has the ability to play Colress.
How many cards,
has
though?
2 Energy Recycler. And there's only 4 cards left. Can play this Colress, Lost Zone a single card, guarantee the rest. There's a Nest Ball here. I think Grant Manley might have found the pieces here. Has the attachment for turn, can retreat off this Comfey, has the Energy Recycler. I think it's all there. Let's count the energy. There's 3, 4, 5 energy. Can put a 6 in the discard pile with the Comfey by retreating it.
He only needs 4 here.
It only needs 4, that's correct. The damage on the bench Tyranitar. There it is, 2 more energy. The cards are there. Mirage Gate, put 2 energy on, retreat this Comfey, and Aqua Storm on stream.
Back to
200
back.
damage to 2 bench Pokemon. This time it didn't work out in game 1 for Grant Manley, but game 2, it was so successful, so strong. We're going to game 3.
Who? Boy, did our wishes get granted. Again, that's the Aqua Storm you want to see. You don't want to see a Manaphy in the deck for sure. Right now, Grant Manley tying it up here at the round 13 of the regional Hartford Regional Championship with only 23 seconds left in the clock, though.
No, I don't think this game will finish. I believe as we're actually setting up, the person who elects to go first will be treated as turn 0 at this point. There was a rule change that happened a few years ago that if a game happens and it's in between time, I have to actually look at the ruling again. I think if the game doesn't set up and time is called, then I think it's either... No, they changed it from that. So if the game is still happening, the person who starts game 3 is turn 0. So, I mean, there's a really weird situation where...
Pumpkaboo, and then gets cramped.
Pumpkaboo, pass, Cramorant, hit the Cramorant, knock it out.
That's it.
So I think Grant Shen probably going to elect to go first. Understands that's the best way for his deck to get set up. Try and hope that maybe Grant Manley doesn't have any Pokemon left in play. Wow, what a crazy finish there to game 2. Tie between both these players still keeps them in contention for top 8. 9-2-2. 11-2-2 seems to be potentially a safe record.
Yeah, again.
We thought Grant Manley was out of it. He dug deep, found the cards needed, found everything. The Echoing Horn, Counter Stadium, Mirage Gate, Double Energy Recycler, and made it happen.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there. Just had exactly what he needed. You literally listed out every card Grant needed, and the important thing Grant Shen didn't have was that Judge. Again, if Grant Shen played a Judge that turn, things would be completely different. Because again, we listed it down. It was a huge list of cards he needed. Not only that, getting to the very bottom of the deck as well. It was a tall order indeed, but unfortunately, again, the early discards. But sometimes, again, you have to do those. Discards, especially when you want Archeops in the discard pile.
Yeah, so a little bit of a rule clarification for those watching. The player going first, who is going first in a game that the time has been called, is turn 1. There is no turn 0. So assuming that Grant Shen decided to go first, he will be turn 1, which means Grant Shen will get 2 turns, Grant Manley will get 1 turn. So there is a possibility for a turn 1 knockout.
One turn is all we need.
2 Pokemon come down on Grant Manley's side. It doesn't matter if it's all the V Pokemon. It doesn't matter if it's a bunch of Comfey. That will be the game, and we'll be getting a tie between both these competitors.
Exactly. Let's see. Again, it's just going to be... it's all going to depend on the opening hand, but I just have to say what an intense round 13 we've had. Even if it's going to come down to a potential tie, most likely a tie. It was absolutely amazing to see just both these players play it out, really play to the best of their capabilities. Again, a masterclass on both Lugia and Lost Box. I learned a ton.
I think everybody did, myself included. I mean, you see why Grant Manley is so successful with this Lost Box deck, is just able to make sacrifices early on in the game, lost on those cards, but no, hey, listen, I'd love to have these cards later on. These cards would really help me set my board up, hit my turn goals, hit my objectives, but I know that they're not 100% necessary to find those last couple of turns to stay on pace. After a rough game 1, when your mental's shaken, when you get so unlucky to fleet-footed into that 1 copy of Lightning Energy you have left in your deck, able to keep his composure, a veteran on this stage, a veteran in this game, pulling it back, finding the Aqua Storm, saving himself, giving himself a chance to make top cut at this tournament.
Exactly. And again, yeah, a pro player indeed. You got to keep that mindset, especially, nerves are there. You're in day 2 playing for top 8. You're on stream as well. The world's eyes are on you on making your plays, and again, just a little bit of an unlucky draw, but you bring yourself back, you compose yourself, you get back in, and that's what happened here. That's why we were at 1-1.
So here you go, game 3. As we sort of explained, if both players just have Pokemon to put into play, there's no way for either of these decks to take 6 prize cards on the first couple of turns of the game. You saw things get pretty grindy. We'll see if maybe Grant has all of his Pokemon on the prize cards, but no, pretty standard prizes for both these players, and we'll get things kicked off in this short, but nevertheless memorable game number 3. Who is starting to turn off? And it looks like Grant Shen actually choosing to go second in this position. Maybe with the idea of hoping that his opponent just doesn't have basic Pokemon to put into play, but does have the Nest Ball, can put a second Pokemon into the deck or into the bench. And from there, as long as I'm not missing anything, I think this game will be a tie between both our players.
Exactly. I like the decision from Grant Shen there. Again, all you need to do is put 2 Pokemon. By going second, that gives you the bigger odds that you get to play a supporter. That means it helps you find more Pokemon. But right now, we do see the Radiant Serena, so things should be A-okay.
Just find the Comfey off the Hisuian Heavy Ball, having Switch Cart, and the Sky Seal Stone as well. Just gonna use the Sky Seal Stone and say, hey, my objective is just to get Pokemon into play. I'll find Battle VIP Pass, I'll get the bench filled up, and I'll start flower selecting and play this game out like it normally would, just to say, hey, listen, if we had more time, look how nice my board would have been. Look how nice my setup is right now.
Exactly, exactly. Actually, did we go to time? It looks like we have 2 minutes left on screen.
Looks like we got an extension, so it seems like playing this game out as normal. Going to be still some long turns. Pokestop being played. Does find 2 pretty powerful cards. I don't know if in a minute and a half is going to change much, but we'll at least get to see more of how these players' decks function. And again, a great masterclass to anybody watching at home, trying to learn how to pilot these decks. I think it's shown that it's not easy at all, but if you put the reps in, yeah, these Kyogre turns, they're very much possible.
100%. Give me 1 minute of just watching these Grants play it out. I'll take it. I'll take 1 extra minute. I'm happy.
More time to learn, more time to study. Flower selecting being utilized, not quite yet. Does have a few switching cards in the hand. Has not yet retreated for turn. Escape Rope will be the choice to pivot out this Raikou into the active. Flower selecting, nothing we are too unfamiliar with. Choices here, I think keeping the energy would still be nice, just to have that for an Aqua Storm down the line. But again, not going to be too relevant in this position. If
Aqua Storm in 2 minutes, I would love to see that.
If Grant turned 2 Aqua Storms,
He wins. He wins Hartford from there.
That might be, honestly, his only play is just to like try an Aqua Storm. But again, you can't hit the active.
You can't hit the active.
So what is really your option at this point? To just attach to this Pokemon, pass the turnover. We'll see what Grant has. So there's Radiant Serena. Has the access to the energy card, and still has Professor's Research. And yeah, you're getting rid of these Urn of Vitality, which of course you want to have, but what's it really worth at this point? Draw 7 cards. Do we see a Lugia V come down? There is a Luminion, though. It does have the Pokestop. I don't think that's a card you really want to be playing. Has Mezagoza. Play that to maybe try and find a Pokemon, but no, we're going to Pokestop. Doesn't find anything at all. Does find the Pokemon
in the
to put
bench
away.
actually is kind of scary. Pumpkaboo in the discard pile. Does play the Mesagoza. I'm sure Grant Manley is thinking, why couldn't this be game 1 or 2?
Have to play it all. But of course, having those 2 Pokemon in play means that there's no way for Grant Manley to knock them both out, passing the turnover. So Grant Manley will get 1 more turn to pick things out. I keep thinking that time has been called, but actually time has not been called in this position. Grant Manley maybe has some sort of a chance to play through this game, playing another Colress's Experiment, flower selecting.
That's true.
Making absolutely rapid decisions. If Grant can somehow finish this turn off before the card is drawn.
Wow.
Okay, wait, this might actually be
blitz
happening
right
here.
there.
Here we go. Lightning Rondo taking the knockout. 1 prize taken.
There's a Lugia V from now from Grant Shen's. As Grant Shen's draw, there should be time. I'm trying to think. Is there a way to take 5 prizes, Ethan? In 2 turns.
You could take a knockout next turn,
And
take
then
1
Aqua Storm.
prize, and then Aqua Storm.
Okay. You called it. That's what's going to happen.
So time has officially been called now. Grant Shen is turn 0, which means Grant Manley will get 2 turns. Grant also getting 2 turns, but I mean, if you're Grant Shen here, you're not playing to win this game. Like, it's not possible if this game plays out for you to win, so what can you do? Well, I guess the goal is just to try and draw as many cards as possible, put as many Pokemon as you can into play, and just try and avoid losing this game.
Yeah, I'm actually at the edge of my seat right now from just thinking that there is a possibility. It's a very long shot, mind you, but again, if anyone can do it, I think it'd be Grant Manley, but again, very long shot. I'm trying to think, how do you get to the bottom of your deck from here?
Okay.
Or you could just blindly attack with the Kyogre. Why not?
So flipping, looks like tails on the Mezagoza, heads on the Capturing Aroma, not grabbing any Pokemon. So we'll just be looking through the deck, seeing what cards are available, what is possible. Yeah, I mean, the problem with Aqua Storm always is that you can only target bench Pokemon. So as long as there's an active Pokemon in play, you're really going to be looking to take those 4 prize turns to keep yourself in this game. There's another Lugia V that can come down.
If you don't bench here, you actually guaranteed a tie, right? That means the Serena gets knocked out, Lugia goes into the active, there's no
Nope.
No,
well,
but
the
then
problem
you
is, of course, Grant does have Echoing Horn as an option. Oh, but the Echoing Horn is away in the Lost Zone. So Actually, by potentially not... I don't think it actually matters because Echoing Horn is gone. As long as you just bench this and pass 2 turns...
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I mean, you would take 2 prizes with Escape Rope, but then you're at 3 prize cards, right? How do you take more things if your opponent doesn't bench them for you? Now, if Grant Shen, for some reason, puts Archeops into play, gives Grant Manley a gift, then, hey, Kyogre is all the possibility.
No, yeah. I think the Echoing Horn in the loss zone is just the nail in the coffin here. But again, going to a tie, not the worst scenario. You do get 1 point. The dream is still alive for both these players. But again, we'll have to see.
There's so much to unpack in this game, though. Just the dynamic of this matchup. The biggest threat, really, to take away is how important Cragalanche is in this matchup. Just discarding cards, making it hard for Grant to find those pieces. It wasn't as impactful, but of course it can matter in terms of getting rid of those important resources. Still finishing the turn out, though. Does have access to Fleet-Footed, can draw a card.
Fleet-Footed
Serena will be getting knocked out. Kyogre coming to the bench. So
he could take 4 prizes this turn and then take a knockout.
Is he going to risk it? No, maybe he will. He's going to flower selecting, though. Take a look at more cards. Easy choice there. Water Energy and Water Energy. Pretty sure he's going to take Water Energy. And here we go, Mirage Gate. So let's count the amount of energies in deck. So there's 3 energy
there's 3
here.
Energy.
I think Grant Manley is going to play to this out. Is going to just say, listen, I'm an Aqua Storm. I'm going to discard 5 random cards on top of my deck. If I hit 5 energy cards, I can take a knockout onto this Kyogre, or I can take a knockout onto both of these Lugia. And from there, all I got to do is take 1 more prize card. Is this
again,
the optimal play?
You play to your outs. The fact that there is a possibility, you take it, right? You take it here. I just have to say, Grant Manley, he's my hero. He's going to show us another Aqua Storm. 3 games in a row. Yes, maybe not Aqua Storm for full effect, but we get to say the attack.
So I think a supporter card has not been played yet. I'm not actually sure if Mesagoza has been played either. We'll see Colress's Experiment. This can get rid of 2 of these cards. V-Star Power has already been used, so that Forest Sealstone, Lost Vacuum, not making too much of a difference. We haven't seen the attachment yet for turn. We've already seen this Raikou retreat from the active position. Does have the Water Energy in hand, so is not forced to burn the Mirage Gate. Does have Escape Rope as well, but the problem with Escape Rope is by playing it, Lugia comes in the active. You can't target that down with an Aqua Storm.
That is true. Does he have any way, any other way to switch here? Does have the Mirage Gate potentially just attach retreat?
You've already lost zoned 1 Mirage Gate. There's 1 in the prize cards as well, so that would leave you just a single Mirage Gate left in your deck if you still have access to that. But I think maybe 1 more has also been used.
Is that all that's left from his deck?
That's it. It's just that.
That's impressive. That's very impressive here.
So I think Grant's idea here is if I can knock out both Lugia, there's nothing that can attack my Kyogre. So if I go all in on this Kyogre, if this is the choice that I go for, just go for this Aqua Storm.
Have you?
So there's been no attachment for turn yet. I think has there? Maybe there has been an attachment, actually.
Again, the turn has been very, very fast. Let's see here.
Let's see. I'm honestly not sure in this position if there has been an attachment, if there hasn't been one. I don't think Concealed Cards has been used either so far, so could potentially Concealed Cards. Does have the Escape Rope, so we will see Flower selecting yet again.
Looks like
does find another Energy Recycler, so this can put this back into the deck, find more energy cards, but I do actually think the energy did potentially come down onto the Raikou. And here we go. Are we gonna see it? All right, Pokestop going through the entire deck, finding double Escape Rope, so that can Escape Rope put this back in.
Wait, if Grant attacks here, though...
I think Grant just can lose the game,
He can lose the game, so at this point, you just use this Recycler to just pass. Grant, it's cool. It's very, very cool to try and show us a knockout with the Aqua Storm.
If there's 2 Recycler, then it's technically possible. The problem with the Escape Rope is the Escape Rope is going to now bring up the other Lugia. So we have seen the retreat for turn already, so that is already happened because the Raikou did lose that energy card. Let's see exactly what else you do. I think at this point, Grant understands. It's not possible for me to win this game. I've done the impossible so far this set, but this is a feat that I don't think I can do. We'll see the 5 energy get put back in with Energy Recycler, but I think that's just going to be Grant's turn. Listen, a tie is better than a loss.
Yeah.
You might as well walk away from this match with a match point with how...
He has a Mirage Gate. He can attack you with a Raikou.
Can take a knockout with Raikou.
That's still 2 prizes. He'll go down to 3.
I think that is going to be the choice. Take the knockout here. If you have another escape rope in your hand, then that's technically possible. You can retreat the energy off, bring it back with energy recycler.
But again, without
every time I think he's out of this game, every time I think there's a tie, he finds another card to play and another route to take to try to give himself a shot in this game.
But again, without the echoing horn, I don't think it's possible here. Yes, he'll go down to 2.
No, Grant is turn 2 though, right? So this is just the last.
Oh, this is the last turn.
I think this is the last turn of time. I think time was called on, or maybe time was called on Grant's turn. So maybe there's 2 turns left in time. I mean, I feel like that would be the only reason that Grant is still playing this game out.
Either that or Grant really wants to show us one more Aqua Storm.
So this is turn 2 right now. So Grant Manley still has one more turn left. Finds Collapse Stadium, finds the Judge. What Pokemon will you discard here? I feel like it's got to be one of the Comfey for sure. With the Judge, it's going to make it even harder to Aqua Storm at this point. Grant Shen's playing to not lose, and this is a great way to not lose. Evolve this Lugia up, put no more Pokemon on your bench. And I think if no more Pokemon come down, there's not a single way Grant Manley can win this game because, again, Aqua Storm cannot target the active.
Exactly, as long as Grant Shen doesn't bench anything. If he doesn't bench a Pokemon V anyway, he should be fine.
That's true. Yeah, but no, the problem is if a single prize Pokemon comes down into play, Escape Rope can force the Lugia onto the bench. But
with 280,
it's 280, right? So I think we're just going to see
again,
Grant Shen pass the turnover. And
I can't believe it was possible, though. The only difference is if the Echoing Horn was in the deck.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything in between both of these players. I think it's going to be a tie between both of these players. Still having a chance at top cut, so there's no reason I'd see either of these